All right, come join Kyle, John, and David as they go through what's on their playlist. Find out what's everyone's favourite at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. We have a few segments, to be honest. In and out points, no celebs and the gossip. Back in time where we talk about the big M's coming attractions, what the cue. Quick checks, who'll be laughing? You abundantly. Welcome to Dual Redundancy.
Yes, welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast we hear all latest in television, entertainment news with too many hosts with exactly the same opinions. I'm one of those hosts, David Allen, and another one is
John Berwick, and a third one is
Kyle Bridger. I would say that I am the Elrond to John's Durin, and this bromance finishes in a throuple with our beautiful lady Galadriel. David.
Thank you. All that didn't make any sense to me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm assuming it's Lord of the Rings of Power, because I don't know what we're talking about. You guys watched that. You did the full season 1 of the Amazon Lord of the Rings series. I did, along with you guys as well, the Midnight Club. We watched the premiere. We're going to talk about that tonight. A lot to get through tonight. So let's jump right into it. John, what is this first segment?
In and Out Points.
In, order out. In, order out. In, out.
Yes, it is in and out points. Mark Zuckerberg has been spending years and literally billions of dollars on Meta's Horizon virtual worlds in the metaverse. And finally, coming soon, the avatars that have just been simply hovering above the ground as heads and arms and torsos will have legs.
Wow.
Legs are coming to the metaverse. Legs are, quote, probably the most requested feature on our roadmap. But seriously, legs are hard, which is why other virtual reality systems don't have them either. That's a quote from Mark Zuckerberg.
Can I hop in here real quick?
Uh-oh.
There are several platforms which already have legs. In fact, you can buy trackers specifically to put on your feet and knees and hips and arms to fully track your body. So this technology has been around for several years, like quite a while, basically since VR stuff started coming out. You can hop right into VR chat, and if you have the equipment, you can fully track every aspect of your body, including rotation and translation and all that. If you have a couple $100 worth of equipment, so
I don't believe you. I believe Mark Zuckerberg. He's if legs were so easy, why would he have done it sooner? He's spending billions of dollars. Do you think he would? If they were so cheap and easy to do, he would have legs way sooner than now.
My thought is that they're trying to do legs without using extra tracking technology. So they're trying to use the onboard camera, which is what currently tracks your hands and arms in VR, in order to do this, which I think is a little foolish, but I don't have $1 billion to spend on, VR. But currently what it does is there's a camera that tracks your hands, and you can see your hands in VR, and you can use them well enough to do sign language, but that's a hard ask to grab feet and legs. And what happens when you sit down? And there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff going on with this.
I can maybe see why they're spending so much money for no reason.
Kyle, you look riveted, and I'm sure you can't wait for the legs. Think that was the last thing holding you back from the metaverse?
Oh yeah, totally. It's the legs. I thought the reason that they didn't put legs on people is because they were worried about like virtual reality sex. Like they didn't want people, and legs were a part of that whole situation. It's like if you cut off half the torso, you don't have to worry about this problem anymore. It's just like, oh, we're gonna
is
bump
it a problem,
bottoms,
or is it an opportunity? That's what Mark is thinking here. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
What's cooler than no?
Yeah.
Yeah, so no details on when, but we do have news that the Quest Pro headset to help you get inside the metaverse will cost you around $14.99 $1,499. I don't want you to think it was $15.
Yeah.
This new headset will include new features like eye tracking and the pass-through, which is kind of like layering the virtual experience on top of the real world. And
What? I just have a question, and maybe
yeah,
John knows this. I feel like virtual reality is always like right around the corner, and they haven't figured out the full scope of it yet. And each time they update it, it's like now it's 10 times as much as it used to be or
Yeah.
needs to be.
I mean,
It's like I thought Quest was
yeah.
making
Where's
like
Google
stuff that was like
Glass? Wasn't that
600.
something?
Yeah, it
well,
was like $600.
Google
And
Glass
now
is
it's
kind of
15.
a separate thing, but yeah, I mean, we're still trying to find the intersection between the hardware being powerful enough to do what we want and it being cheap enough for consumers to just purchase it like you would a game console or whatever. I mean, right now, yeah, you're looking at what $1,500 to get into this environment. That's a little steep, but considering what that does versus what other things do, I mean, the Quest headset, which we're talking about, is literally just a headset. The VR system I have a headset which is tethered to the computer that needs a computer to run. The Quest doesn't. I have two controllers, which the Quest has optional controllers depending on what you're doing. I have to have two lighthouses, so two base stations in my house that are sending infrared that the helmet can use to track, whereas the one that Mark has uses, I believe, inside out tracking, where it's looking at your environment and tracking how your head moves, basically. So yes, it kind of always seems like it's a little bit further away, but as we're iterating, we're building that tech up.
Yeah.
Whether that's
We got
worth
legs,
$1,500
Kyle. I mean,
bucks.
it's finally we got legs. Now that there's no end in sight, we have legs. Maybe. Because we don't really know, because the video used to announce this new advancement was faked. As reported in Forbes, the footage of Mark jumping was actually pre-rendered for the show. It was confirmed via Meta. They had a statement, and it was to enable the preview of what's to come. The segment featured animations created for motion capture. So what we saw in the video announcing that there was legs was not actually in the system. It was a different version. Yeah, it's just like, I'm gonna be honest. I see the footage and it's cool. Yeah, virtual reality metaverse. That sounds neat. But like, what are we doing? Why are we spending billions and billions and billions of dollars on recreating The Sims? Like these graphics. Back in August, I saw that Mark shared this post of his avatar, and it was widely mocked. And then he responded with a more realistic version a few days later and said, quote, "I know the photo I posted earlier this week was pretty basic. It was taken very quickly to celebrate a launch. The graphics in Horizon are capable of much more." But it's like, to me, this whole thing feels like a scam. Like how it's like, no, you thought this was our final version? No. This is our final. It's like, that was always their final. Like, that's what it was supposed to be, but then it got picked on. Okay, let's fix it up a bit. It's like when it's a little different, but like the Sonic movie. It's like, here's the trailer. It's like, really? That's your Sonic? Well, hang on a second. We'll fix it up a little bit, and then they do a new Sonic, and it's like, I don't know. It just feels so dumb and fake, and I don't know.
Well, I mean, he's trying to sell a product that, people don't necessarily want. Like, I don't know who wants this kind of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I know virtual reality is huge, but is anybody being like, I can't wait for a guy that houses information like crazy to now have virtual reality of my tracking? It's like,
literally be able to track my movements, my surroundings, already, you got enough, Mark. You got enough.
Yeah. And it's just like, I just feel like this is one of those side gigs that a billionaire has just to waste their time and money with Jeff Bezos. It's like, how high into space can I go?
Exactly. There's this great meme that I saw, and it's of course from like the Social Network, and they have like the scene where they're in like the conference room with the lawyers there, and Mark says, "You have part of my attention. You have the minimum amount. The rest of my attention is back at the offices of Facebook, where my colleagues and I are doing things that no one in this room, including and especially your clients, are intellectually or creatively capable of doing." Cut to It's like, come on, like The Sims. Here we go.
Yeah,
It's just come on. But
that's funny.
yeah, where do you get this
But
from the Wii, from those little Mii characters we had?
yeah, I feel like this idea that everything was motion capture was like a Silicon Valley storyline too.
Yeah,
And it was definitely a Halt and Catch Fire storyline where they have to like fake a demo. I mean, it feels like everything in this digital media from the start this is kind of what
fake
it's
it till
based
you make
on.
it.
I will
Yeah.
say that is what a lot of companies do, where they have like, not working prototypes that they show what they envision. So I
Yeah.
can't say that he's, the only person doing this. Whether or not that's the right business practice or not is
Yeah.
a separate question. I don't think it is, but he's not alone in showing what what results they expect rather than what results they currently have.
Yeah. Well, wild stuff. Wild stuff, the metaverse. And we're going from the metaverse to deep fakes. Initially, The Telegraph and Collider reported that movie legend Bruce Willis became the first Hollywood actor to sell his rights to the possibility of a digital twin to a US firm, Deepcake. Now, this would mean that with the use of deep fake technology, Willis pretty much offered his likeness to be used on screen for future projects. Now, spoiler, I'll jump ahead a little bit here. A few days later, it was denied by his rep that, quote, no partnership or agreement has been made. He did, at one point in August of 2021, use or authorize his likeness to be used for a commercial for a Russian telecom company that was from Deepcake. But it brings up a really interesting idea here that this is possibly possible. Like, what do you think about this, John? That an actor can
they're kind
sell
of
my
already
likeness.
doing this. I mean, if you look back at Star Wars, they sort of did it for Princess Leia. They actually did it for Luke in The Mandalorian, I believe.
Yep.
They also did it for one of the generals in one of the new Star Wars movies. So people are doing it. It's not I mean, those cases are people who are either dead or as part of a de-aging process, because Mark Hamill's not dead. But it's happening. Whether or not it's is it more cost effective to have somebody act it out and then rent the likeness of a big major celebrity? Maybe, but I mean, my thought goes back to, what was it, The Scorpion King with The Rock, where he just looks like a terrible claymation. Like, I know that's not deepfake, but like, it can go wrong. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Definitely. Especially like whatever we see now, you look back on it, like, whatever 5 years ago, it's like, oh, what was that? But at the time, we're like, oh, wow, this is so good. It's just, it's interesting because, you mentioned the Star Wars stuff, and it's like, we've seen versions of this where like the estates are called, and it's like, will you let us do this with this actor that, has passed? And it's like, okay, sure, for this movie, you can do it. But this could be like a game changer where it's like, you could put Bruce Willis in your movie now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, as a supporting character, a lead character, an extra. Like, there you go.
I just think of the rash of like overdone movies that we get again and again and again. But it's like in like 30 years or even 20 years, is anybody going to know who Bruce Willis is? But then it's going to be like iterations where we have like the Bruce Willis years where they bring him back, and then like the next one, their years, and then the years after, and then we'll reboot Bruce Willis back into the universe. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
They'll know who he is because they rebooted the first Die Hard 4 times.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean, this pairs hand in hand with the conversation we had a couple months ago with the voice and the deep faking of people's voices. I mean, if you're gonna deep fake a likeness, why would you not deep fake the voice unless you want to have the actor come read the lines? But at that point, might as well have him act. Like, so I don't know. I can kind of see where this is all going. It would be nice to use it as an enhancement to film, not as a replacement for actors, but knowing how technology goes and how humans are, I don't know if I can say that will only stay in the enhancement realm rather than,
Because you
I'm
want
just
like 90% real, 10%, maybe
Just
some
fix the
fixes
stuff
here and there. But
that
Hollywood is going to do the opposite. They're going to do 90% fake and then 10% real. Like,
yeah.
but,
I just wonder with crazy like contract
oh
things,
yeah.
like if you're in a big movie series like say Star Wars or something, um, and you sell like your image or likeness, God forbid it would never happen, but in perpetuity forever, that could literally mean your likeness, right? Like
Yeah,
they could keep redistributing your visage to everyone, you know?
and like what could they do it with? Like like with the contract, like what type of film
Yeah.
that you're going to be in? Maybe you're going to all of a sudden be in a commercial for a product, that you
Yeah.
have never wanted to be associated with, and now you're the spokesperson for it. Like it's going to be very
Yeah.
complicated to iron out any contracts if this
That's
ever
what I
does
initially
become
thought of when
socially
I saw
acceptable.
this headline was
Mm.
that like you got to be careful what you wish for. You sell your image, and I mean, you could be,
The
sporting.
face of something you don't want to be the face
Yeah,
of.
I was gonna say, or sporting dual redundancy merchandise. You never know.
How dare you? How dare you? Well, all right. I mean, maybe Netflix will be using this because they're cranking out movies left and right, and they got a lot to put on their platform, especially with this new ad tier. And we've been really talking about it for a while, but we finally got details of what this ad tier option is going to look like. It's basic with ads. It's going to cost $6.99 a month, and it will launch November 3rd. Coincidentally, that is a month before Disney's December 8th ad tier launch, and that is going to cost $1 more than Netflix. So Netflix came in $1 under a month earlier to sneak in against Disney here. And these ads, you can expect about 4 to 5 minutes of ads per hour for both series and feature films. And there's going to be no political ads, no ads for like guns, smoking, and for products that Netflix, deems as, maybe they don't agree with kind of thing. But yeah, so I got some more details, but just initial thoughts of the ad tier plan, basic with ads, Kyle.
I just think it's so funny that these media companies have gotten exactly what they've wanted. It's taken a while, but this is clearly what they wanted. You have to pay for the service and then get ads on top of that. And they know
Mhm.
people are going to go for it if they're in a pinch for cash or whatever, that people are going to be willing to look at ads to watch it. And it's exactly what I mean, they probably hope for. And now they're on a platform that you have to pay to use the internet service. They're just literally putting up whatever on their platform. Then they don't have to even have to come out and like supply you with it. The supply is coming from somewhere else with the internet rather than the actual cable itself. It's crazy.
Yeah. And looking at the prices compared to other services with ads, because a lot of companies, a lot of streaming services are doing this now, introducing an ad tier option. It looks like it's about on the lower end of things. I mean, right now Peacock and Paramount Plus are $5 with ads, but I mean, they're not compared to Hulu, HBO Max, and Disney, which are much higher. Disney Plus, like I said, $8. Hulu's $8. HBO Max, $10. So Netflix is kind of coming in at $7, which is the lower end of these streaming services. But
But I don't think there's any way they stay at that
no,
because they're high on the subscription fee for I think everything else, right? I
yeah,
think for
especially if you go higher up where they have
yeah.
like I think they have like a 4K plan. They have like a plan that you can there's all these like extra add-ons that you can do with
And you got
Netflix.
to add your family members too.
There you
Yeah.
go. That's a whole other thing we've been talking about. When they have movie ads, supposedly new films like Knives Out 2 will have a pre-roll, uh, kind of like maybe what HBO Max does, like that initial ad. But older films, they're gonna have like a combo of the pre-roll and mid-roll ads. So who knows, like after
That kinda
6
sucks.
months, a year of Knives Out 2 being on the service, they're going to start breaking up that movie with some ads instead of just having them all at once. This was to supposedly keep like the cinematic experience there, at least for those newer films. But not all programming will carry ads at the launch because, quote, a limited number of movies and TV shows won't be available due to licensing restrictions, which we're working on. It's like 5 to 10% of their catalog won't have ads. And that's probably because if you have shows from other production companies, other networks, like, oh, you're not putting ads on our things. That was never part of our deal. Which makes me wonder, though. This is not what they're saying, but could this be a possibility? Could it become something like Peacock, where there's tiers of Netflix content, where you want Stranger Things season 5? It's not going to be on the basic with ads plan. That's on the basic without ads plan. Like, is it going to be kind of like different tiers of programming instead of just ads, where it's like, yeah, right now everything on Netflix has ads, but oh, if you want this premium content, like what they're doing with Peacock, you have to go for the premium.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's like double dipping. Okay, we're gonna make you pay for the service and then pay for the actual content itself.
Pay
It's
to
like
watch
paid
ads.
entry. Paid entry. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And I'm also just curious, is Netflix gonna, like, Netflix right now is known to be kind of like somewhat, artist friendly. They don't have much notes. They kind of let the artists and the creators make a show. But that kind of may change once advertisers get involved because, whether it's censoring content or them offering notes on show content that the advertisers don't agree with. Like, it's harder to possibly get advertisers to support whether it's like violent, vulgar shows. Like, it's like, wait, that's what my money's going to? Like, I don't want my brand associated with this serial killer or this content. I'd rather be on Stranger Things or on whatever. Or if there's a storyline with certain characters, it's like, oh, I don't agree with those morals. So it's like that's where it gets complicated, where it's like they're like, will creators like to hear, oh, sorry, Charmin toilet paper doesn't agree with some of the values of this programming, so they're going to pull their sponsorship.
Well,
Like,
I was just thinking, like, what is if they do this for TV shows? What are they going to do with Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, stop it and start a bleach commercial? Like,
maybe.
it's crazy.
Yes, and then the other cons of this ad tier, no downloads allowed on this plan, and the resolution will actually be 720p versus the 1080p of Netflix's standard plan. So not only are you getting ads, you can't download it. It's not going to look as good, and possibly it's just our thinking here. You may have to pay extra for that premium content later on. That's our guess, but
that's wild, man. That is crazy. They're just fine. It's like Apple at this point, just trying to find a way to fish more money out of you.
Yeah, anything they can do. They're also going to try to get more money by putting a movie in theaters in a big number. That's Knives Out. The sequel here, in an historic first, AMC, Regal, and Cinemark theaters have agreed to play Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, in a special 1-week preview before the sequel hits Netflix a month later. So this is an interesting thing we could talk about here because, when most films, open nowadays, a big blockbuster film, it's like 4,000 theaters. It's like a crazy big number. It sounds like it's going to be only 600 AMC Regal theaters that are going to do this, plus other select theaters that were already showing Netflix movies. And it's going to be only between November 23rd through the 29th. And then a month later, the movie will actually hit Netflix for everyone. What do you think about this little experiment for a week here? They finally caved. They're finally letting a Netflix movie premiere in their theaters, AMC and Regal.
We're gonna pay more to go see another movie? Like, I already have Netflix. Why would I wait?
Well, it's an interesting idea because it's like, for the longest time, Netflix has wanted to show movies in theaters, whether it was like The Irishman, years ago. It's, yeah, we want to play this movie, and they were offering to give like, yeah, we'll give it to you for 3 weeks exclusive. You know, you can have it in theaters for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it was, which is a long time. And then they would show it on Netflix, but theaters, like, it was like this stalemate between the two, and theaters were like, no, exclusive rights for months. We need months of exclusive rights because yeah, no one will come in the theater if it's going to be on the service 2 weeks later, which we figured out from other films, especially during the pandemic, that is not true. Whether it was the HBO Max, you know, Dune and all those big blockbusters, day and date, that was okay. Even just this past weekend, like Halloween Ends, the Universal film, it opened day and date on Peacock and in theaters. So I always found it strange that AMC and Regal were like, Netflix, no, no, no. But it's okay for Universal. It's okay when they, you know, during the pandemic for HBO Max. But it was always weird. It was always weird. But they're finally, I guess, doing a little test run here because I think theaters are hurting.
Yeah,
think theaters,
the writing is on the wall here. I think that's what it comes down to is they're looking to get cash at any opportunity they can, and they see maybe a sequel that can give you a good spot weekend to give you some more cash. How can you go against that at this point? I think they're really, really hurting, like you suggest, and it was only a matter of time.
Yeah, because I don't have the official numbers in front of me. I know Knives Out made quite a bit of money, but it's just like, okay, yeah, there's going to be some people that are just going to wait till it's on Netflix, but then there's also going to be plenty of other people. Like I went to see The Irishman in theaters, and I'm looking up at the box office right now for the original, 311 million saw Knives Out. So it's like, well, okay, maybe it does 100 million. I mean, that's on the low end. That's still 100 million that you didn't have. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. I'll take that, you know. But
as far as the actual movie, I think I'm nervous about this one.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how it comes out.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious. It's like this in like the White Lotus, where it's like, you know, it was supposed to be a one-off. Now we're gonna go to another exotic location with another mystery with one carryover character. It's like, will they get lightning in a bottle twice? It's interesting. They're both kind of coming out around the same time. We'll have to wait and see on that. But that's all we got for In and Out points. We have 2 shows to talk about tonight. In order to talk about them, we have to go back. Send us back.
We're back, baby.
Gotta get back in time.
The Midnight Club, the series premiere, the final chapter. All episodes dropped on October 7th on Netflix. Mike Flanagan is back with another horror mystery thriller, and this one, which is based on the 1994 novel of the same name, it follows 8 terminally ill young adults who meet up each midnight to tell sinister stories. So we've all seen the premiere of the Midnight Club. Let's start off with Kyle. Thoughts on the premiere?
I didn't love it. I thought it was okay. I'm always into the mystery that this group of creators set up. So the mystery, I'm all for. I just don't know if I'm down for the journey, if that's the way to put it. I honestly felt like a lot of the time I was watching like a soapy CW show, and I think that might have been on purpose. But the more I watched it, I was like, I don't know if this show is not meant for me. I don't think. I think it's meant for a younger crowd, which is good. I'm not the demographic, whatever. But like I said, there was definitely some scary moments. They still have that vibe going. That's cool. It's still edge of your seat stuff at moments, but at times the acting I felt was spotty. The writing was a little bit like expositional. So I don't know if I'm down for the ride, but if one of you keeps up, let me know. And I'm
I hear,
because I'm interested in the mystery of it though.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned the creator here, Mike Flanagan. He's consistent, and he always, like, every year on Netflix he has something. Last year was Midnight Mass. I love Midnight Mass. It, you know, wasn't for everyone. Other people may love Hill House or Bly Manor. Like, everyone has their favorite, but I would say at least he delivers, a B plus at least,
Mhm.
every year, which is a great track record to crank
Yeah.
these out. I will say I agree with Kyle. I'm slightly worried with this kind of young cast, and possibly I haven't seen past the premiere episode, like this anthology structure, because it sounds like each episode there's that main arc with our main cast, but then each episode is going to maybe have like a new story or at least a continuation of the story that they're telling at the Midnight Club. And it's like I don't want some kind of like, are you afraid of the dark kind of like, this week our story is, it's like I don't know, like I have faith in Mike Flanagan to connect the dots and make every story mean something and matter. But like, yeah, the vehicle to get there with like the young teen cast, I don't know if I'm ready for that ride, as you were kind of saying. I want the mystery, but I don't know if I like how it's being delivered. But John, what did you think of the premiere?
Wasn't into it. I mean, they said it well in the middle of the thing where it was like, jump scares aren't scary. It's frightening. And I know we'll get into it, but like, what did this offer besides jump scares? I'm not even talking about that one scene. Like throughout the whole thing, like it wasn't good. That I kind of agree. I find some of the actors actually kind of annoying. Not all of them, but there's one or two that I'm like, all right, this person needs to get off the screen. And yeah, it just seems very soapy. I don't know. It didn't do anything for me. I like the more psychological kind of stuff than like, oh, there was somebody's face popped up on the screen. Like that feels old and tired and not fun. That doesn't do anything for me. That makes me want to turn it off.
Yeah, there's points where like it's a hard line that they were walking where they're kind of like channeling Scream a little bit, where it's like they're talking about the rules and tropes of horror, and it's like, yeah, like they like at one point they're like, no stories about dying girls. That's a bit masturbatory, given the circumstances. And then they do this jump scare dissection of like, well, that's startling versus being scared. The jump scare will only do that. So like they're kind of dissecting horror tropes. And actually in this episode, they did this sequence that at first, like you're watching it, it's like, okay, maybe they got you the first jump scare, but then it's like, all right, that's enough, because they did so many in a row. And then it's like, then at a certain point, it's like, okay, now it's funny because there's just so many in a row. And then it's like, okay, then it became annoying. Like it's like that thing where it's like, okay, on the third one it was funny, the fifth one it was annoying, the seventh one was funny, the ninth one was annoying. But with all those being tallied up, it actually broke a Guinness World Record for most scripted jump scares in a single TV episode with 21.
Wow.
In this one episode, 21 in a row there.
Record nobody asked to break, but we did it anyway.
Yeah. Kyle, what did you think of all the jump scares of it all?
I felt like I was like, all right, I get it. I get what you're doing. Yeah. So can we move on? But that was mainly my thought about it.
Yeah,
because I am a scaredy cat at heart, so I'm like, all right, I know it's coming, but I don't want to have this anxiety hanging over me right now.
Because that's one of the things, like the Mike Flanagan, I can't remember having many other jump scares throughout his other works, but like one of the things with him, it's like you got to pay attention because there always will be something in the background, whether it's like in Hill House, there were so many creepy like bodies that were just in the background in the shadows of things that you had to be paying attention to, like just see. And even in this one, I noticed one thing I really liked when somebody was walking down a hallway with a candle and they were going to the basement, and like you saw on like the wall, the shadow, to me at least, didn't match up with her. It looked like a creepy like moving silhouette of like a monster or something. So I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like I like that kind of, that's sinister, that's cool. But the jump scare, that's it gets old. But so some other things we could talk about. The music, we got some, me
a lot of 90s.
I liked what they did with the 90s because I felt more natural, unlike maybe something like with Stranger Things where it's like in your face 80s, where it's like blatant references of like named like this movie, that movie, this TV show. Oh, look at this marquee over here. Okay, here's a magazine. It was like, all
Yeah.
right, we get it, Stranger Things. You're in the 80s, but this one was like, okay, it's seamless in the 90s. There's points where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot they're in the 90s. Like, but yeah, to me, I think it's all going to depend on how it all ties together because there was so much like setup in this pilot, whether it's like the possessed elevator, going to a morgue in the basement. There's a symbol under her bed with some ritual thing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this kind of pact of like, well, the Midnight Club, we say, if you die, you're going to come back as a ghost to communicate with them, to tell us what it's like. It's like, well, that's going to happen with somebody. And what's that mean? Is it going to be some kind of alternate reality thing that we're going to, because like the main character is experiencing some kind of deja vu flashes. Like she's seeing these things again, where there's like the kid on the bench over the water, the house, just the Midnight Club being knocked out at the table. Like that's all these things are going to happen. And I don't know if it's going to happen to her when she comes back in. I don't know, but that's what, like, I want to get to that point.
Well, yeah,
but it's going to be a while, I think, till we get there.
Yeah, and I think you also have the storyline of why she's even there in the first place, which is that there's some story with this old, resident of the Briarcliff or Brinchcliff or whatever the heck it's called. Yeah, why she's there in the first place. How is that person tied into it? And like she's battling the same things as this individual. So what's the connection there? So there's like those little mystery things that I'm down with. It's just I don't know. It just felt oddly enough like it's supposed to be the 90s, but it also felt Gen Z at the same time.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Like my girlfriend or fiance was saying like, oh, this is like clearly like a Gen Z girl. Like when they were talking about the books at the party, it was like, what is this? What is happening here?
Yeah, no, I could definitely feel it. Yeah, it's like it's set in the 90s, but like made with people of today, for people of today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys are mixed on it. I might be a little bit higher than you guys, but I mean, I'm still kind of like not all in on this one compared to the last three that we've gotten from Mike Flanagan.
I think I'm going to rely on you for this one. Maybe go a couple ahead. Let me know what you think. And because I got so much to catch up.
Yeah, there's so much going on right now.
I think I'm out.
Yeah, John's out, but
just a straight out. Yeah. I understand that move too.
John was all in on Lord of the Rings of Power, and I was out episode 1. Season 1, we're talking about it tonight here. The finale was on October 14th, set thousands of years before the events of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. The series begins during a time of relative peace and covers all the major events of Middle-earth's Second Age, including the forging of the Rings of Power. So again, I dropped out of this. I'm going to kind of leave it to you guys tonight. I'm going to jump in here and there with some thoughts and some articles I have here. But John, start me off. What did you think of the season? Pros, cons, what worked, what didn't? Give it.
Sure. I think overall I was on the more positive side about this. I think I enjoyed it. I don't think it's peak TV, but I do like it. I like the kind of, and I said this about the other Star Wars one. I like how it kind of slots in with the world that already exists from the movies, but it's a little slow. I think that they have some heavy setup to do because your frame of reference is so far in the future, and there's a couple of little mentions of what happened in the past in the Lord of the Rings movies and all that, but like there's a lot of setup. There's a ton of setup and characters and all that stuff. I get why it's a little slow. I would like it to be a bit faster, but I get it. So I don't know. I'm on the more positive side about it. I know Kyle was having a few reservations.
Kyle was struggling.
I don't hate it, but I just want to like it much more than I do. I don't.
Because you're a big movie fan.
Yeah, I do like the movies a lot. And granted, I am not into like the lore or any of that. But as I was watching the show, and I got to about the 6th episode, where I'm just seeing like very little action happening and just people going on about it. And I'm like, oh, this isn't meant for me. This is meant for like the diehards. I get it. I guess I'm not the audience, but I needed something more, man. I needed some more action before the end. And John's right. We are so far, like, we're so far in the past.
We need some
that I
House
don't-
of the
I'm
Dragon
str-
time jumps.
Yeah, I'm struggling to like make the connection to what we have now. I mean, we're going to basically the creation of Gandalf, and which is like, oh my gosh. But I'm like trying to put the frame of reference from Return of the King, where they're explaining at the end like how the rings are made, and then I'm like, wait, isn't there like 9 more rings that need to be made, and the single ring needs to be made, and we just introduced the Bell Rock at the end of episode 6 or 7. It's like there are a bunch of other things
Well,
happening.
that'll be season 10 in 2054. We're here in episode 1500.
I know.
I kind of get what
just-
they're doing though, because this season showed how the elves got their rings. Next season, is it going to be how the dwarves got theirs? You know, like I kind of get that format and how they're focusing in on it if that's what they're planning to do. So I think it would be a little bit, maybe for me, maybe not for everybody, a little bit confusing if we were trying to make 20-something rings at once, whereas this one focused more on the elves' creation of the rings and some setup for how Mordor came into be, you know?
Mhm.
So
We had 75-minute episodes for 8 episodes?
8
And
episodes.
what in the world happened? That's all we saw was them create the rings, and we had one battle of some minuscule Southlanders who it's not even believable that they would stand a chance. Like, it's just it was at times I just couldn't do anything but shake my head because it seemed so ridiculous.
So it sounds like what I'm gathering, it was like a pacing issue where it was just like we did 8 episodes and it's like, well, what did we do? Like this could have been an email kind of situation. Like,
Yeah, I wish we had something more going on. It feels like a Game of Thrones light. I mean,
Well, yes,
And-
it does actually.
yeah,
but-
and heavy.
I think we talked about the first episode. I believe the first episode is a TV-14.
Mm.
So it's like the PG-13 version. When
Yeah.
obviously Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, we're TVMA, we're rated R.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna sound so negative, but I know what they're doing for the fantasy to get the effect and everything, but there were times where there would be like a tiny battle and the music stingers with like the going into he has a stake at the person's neck, but then no, the stake gets driven back towards his eye, but then no, he brings it back, and it's just like, where does it end? Like, what is happening? What is this? Too much, and then each time it's like music stinger. I'm like, all right, I get it. I
The 21
was
jump
so
scares
over
of
the top
of,
It was
the
so
Lord of the
over
Rings here.
top. I just wish there were more action, because when it did happen, it was cool.
So if
But-
there wasn't enough action, where was all the money spent? We've been talking about this here. $700+ million price tag for this. 250 million for the rights, 450 million for the production of this first season. So I'm gonna do some math here. You know, they said there would be no math, but I'm gonna do a little bit here. You take out the 250 million for the rights. What we have left, we divide that over the 8 episodes. That means we got about 56 million an episode.
That
Roughly.
is crazy.
Was it worth it?
You're
Not my
making
money.
The money on the screen.
you're
Not my
making a medium budget film. That's a pretty high budget film every episode.
56 million. That's like the most expensive. We've talked about Game of Thrones, House of Dragon. I think it's like 20 million.
I, dude,
I I will say everything looks very nice. There was a couple things that Warg didn't look good, but everything else to me has looked fantastic.
And the dust is moving
The dust,
correctly.
it's all tracked in real time, and
but again, and I go back to and you can go back to the first episode where I said everything felt small because we would see like the CGI outcropping, and then we'd go in and we'd be looks like it's like an apple box, a bunch of apple boxes we stood up and put some like leaves around it. You know what I mean? It's just like it seems small. Like I need something bigger in scope. You got this whole budget. What the hell?
That's what it felt like when I only watched the first episode, but like that first episode when they were on the boat there, and like it was just like it just felt enclosed. They were on this open ocean, and it felt like, oh, we're in like a studio that's like a circular, like it's
they're on the Universal lot. They're in the pond in front of the green screen. That's what they are, man.
I didn't fully see, like I could see, it looked nice, but it didn't look $56 million an episode nice. And we could talk a little bit about season 2. You guys will maybe can theorize what's going on for season 2. I have an article here that it's on track for possibly 2024, and it looks like, I'm gonna guess this is what happened in the finale. A big villain is coming here. Again, I don't know even how to pronounce this, but Selron can now be Selron. Like Tony Soprano or Walter White, he's evil, but complexly evil. We felt like if we did that in season 1, he'd overshadow everything else. So the first season is like Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight is the next movie with Selron maneuvering out in the open. We're really excited. Season 2 has a canonical story. There may be viewers who are like, this is a story we were hoping to get in season 1. Well, in season 2, we're giving it to them. Those are some quotes from the showrunners there. So yeah, you may have wanted this in season 1, but in season 2, you're gonna get it.
I don't even necessarily need Sauron. Like I need some more meat on the bones. That's what I'm talking about. All right. But what did you think, John? And this is going to be a spoiler, but what did you think of Halbrand being Sauron? Is that what we expected?
I didn't expect that at all. I thought it was going to be the wizard, and it seems like that's kind of what they were leading up to us, because we have I have the image here. We have the scene where all the witches or whatever they are telling him like, you're Sauron, you're the Dark Lord, blah blah blah, and he's like, no, I'm good, and he decides to be good, and like I think it was kind of a switcheroo, but in a good way, you know. Like I liked it. I really enjoyed that. You know, you kind of see how the rings come out of and his influence that he's already had on the creation of the rings, and I think that the reveal at the very end of him looking at Mount Doom and walking off towards it was great. I really liked it. I think it's a great setup for the next season. I based on what they said about how, you know, it's the season people want, I think they're in a good spot to maneuver into something. Like I said, this isn't peak TV for me, but I can kind of feel what they're doing. I see the breadcrumb trail, and I'm hoping that now that they've got this first season and they've kind of showed not their formula, but they've showed how they're going through the creation of the different rings and setting the pawns in place. Now is when we're going to start seeing the chess game actually develop. And is it unfortunate it took a season to get there? Yes, but like I said earlier, there's so much to cover just to even get to this point that I'm kind of not surprised it took a season. Yes, it was a little slow, but I'm not upset. I'm not, you know, running to go donate my life savings to have an extra, you know, $50 to make their production run better, but I'm into it. I'm looking forward to seeing another season.
Yeah, I'm interested because it's like, I mean, I could be wrong with this, and this kind of goes into a little bit of a discussion we're gonna have next week when we talk about House of the Dragon. But like, I feel like this show, the first season, was like too slow. And I feel like the House of the Dragon, we yada yada a lot of stuff and a lot of
Yes.
time jumps. It's like
Yes.
we need the Goldilocks of give me the one that's just right. Too slow, too much, fast. Where's the one right in the middle where it's the correct pacing of a season? But yeah, Kyle, were you okay that season one was kind of just like a setup pilot for maybe the rest of the series and for season two?
I mean, it depends on how the other season is. If we're more the same, I just can't deal with 60 minutes of 70-minute episodes of Harfoot, whatever they're doing.
We're getting a Walter White version of our big bad here. Tony Soprano's coming in.
Yeah, you'll see him in one of the episodes, and the other episodes they'll be on the water with the elves going back to their homeland. I mean, that's being harsh.
Yeah.
I'm just being a jerk. But yeah, no, I like John. I do think the end works. I think it makes sense, but I think it's interesting that they decided to go with Halbrand being like this bad dude, and it makes sense him wanting to get close to the elves, get closer to this power that he clearly sees, has sought. There were a couple of questions I had in the finale with those like witches trying to get Gandalf, who I assume that's Gandalf at this point. But trying to get, how would they not know it's not Sauron? Aren't those like the rays? Like, I know it's not clear at all how they don't know he's not Sauron. Or could he be like a Sauron type creature if he wanted to be?
Maybe they can see his power and they're like, you're powerful, you have to be him. Whereas things being maybe balanced in the world, he's the opposite. He's a good power, and we kind of see him as he's going through. That he kind of realizes that he doesn't want to be bad and he wants to be good. And I don't know. Is it possible that they could have spun it that way? Maybe, but I don't think so. Like I feel like Sauron, whether he's hiding or doing whatever. I don't know.
All right. Well, it sounds like John's definitely in for season two. Kyle, are you gonna venture into season two? Because I know season one was hard to get through for you, but did the finale make up
probably
for it?
will, because I do enjoy it, but there's a lot of things that I don't like, man. But I'll try it. I'll be on the way. I'll look for my Sauron Walter White edition.
Yeah, watch out for that pizza on the roof of
Yeah.
the Hobbit house there. But yeah, we'll wait and see when we next talk about it on the podcast. Because right now in that article, it's on track for 2024, but we know how these things go. They say 2024, it's 2025, and it's like then the fall of 2025, and I don't know if a show like this can have 8 episodes every 3 years or something like that. Like the momentum needs to be there.
Yeah.
When I'm sure they're going to be cranking out House of the Dragon every year or close to that. But all right, now next week we're going from one fantasy finale to another. We're going to be talking about House of the Dragon. We got a lot to say about the 10 episodes of that HBO series. So we're going to break that all down next week on the podcast. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the blog, dualredundancy.com. We're live Monday nights on Twitch, twitch.tv/dualredundancy, 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. And then, of course, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Dual Redundancy so you know exactly what we're talking about and when we're talking about it. I got to thank both of you guys for joining me tonight. John, directing the show, getting it up on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. For Kyle, going through all those episodes. I know over the weekend it was tough. I was getting those texts and I was like, oh boy, will he survive? Will he make it? But here you are, you made it. You're on the other side of it. Thank you both.
Yep.
But all right. Until next time, I'm David Allen.
I'm John Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Dual Redundancy. Goodbye, everybody.